The weather forecast with Akendo Gaz.
Bonsoir, I'm very excited to have you join me on this edition of the weather forecast. Hope you are having an amazing evening. We will between tonight and tomorrow morning have a calm weather in some parts of the nation with an average possibility of precipitation in others. We expect as low as 17 degrees in the northwest, 18 in the west, in the east and Adamawa regions getting a minimum of 19 degrees. We expect the north and the south regions to get as low as 20 degrees and the center region getting a minimum of 21 degrees. Now on to the far north. Tonight, all the major towns would have low possibility of precipitation, and by morning, far north will have exactly the same experience. Now we take you to the west region, where it may rain heavily in Bafang and Bangangte tonight, and by morning, it may drizzle in the same towns of Bafang and Bangangte. Next, we go over to the southwest, where tonight it may rain heavily in the towns of Boya and Limbe, and by morning it may drizzle in the same towns of Boya and Limbe. Now, you want to be sure that it's not rainy if you want to visit the Rumpy Hills of the southwest. Thank you for watching, and do have a good night.
As the scarcity of the Women's Day fabric heightens on the market, Women's Empowerment Minister reassures that March 8 is still very possible, fabric or no fabric. Our series on the structure and functioning of non-governmental organizations tonight uncovers some of the faces behind the mouth. These organizations that either directly or indirectly condition the orientation of their activities. The indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon clash with the Chipolo Polo of Zambia in Yaoundé tomorrow for the first leg qualifier of the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, Japan. Those are our lead stories. Hello, thanks for joining us on the 7:30 News. I am Ben Menopufong. The Minister of Public Works, Emmanuel Nganu Jumesi, has given the contractors who are working on the Mengong-Sang-Melema stretch of the Mengong-Sang-Melema West Road the 23 days or an ultimatum to complete the work on the 23rd of December 2020. The ultimatum was sounded today as the minister went visiting that section of the road in a working visit that will take him along the entire stretch of that particular road that moves from Zangmelima to Uweso in Congo. We have details with Joyce Kimbi Fawaju, who is with the minister on the field.
Hopes in the horizon for a sooner completion of the Mengong-Sang-Malima road under construction. Started in October 2015 and it was destined to be completed in 2018. Despite 3 prolongations, only 44 kilometers of the 74 kilometers long road have been constructed. 602 graves displaced and only 44% of the indemnities paid to the population. The people are impatient.
We want the road. We are even impatient. A small portion of less than 100 kilometers. Why should we waste time on it?
On a worksite evaluation visit to rethink the work construction schedule, Minister of Public Works Emmanuel Nganu Jumesi was tabled with challenges that have hindered the progress of the work.
The first problem is the displacement of grave, non-payment on contractor, the non-payment of indemnities.
Taking the engagement to pay all the accrued bills to the company and ease the payment of indemnities, Minister Nganu gave an ultimatum for the construction work to be completed by December 23rd, 2020. An order adopted by Mohammad Usman, director of the construction company, during a working session on this first day of the visit to review the completion schedule of the construction works on all sections of the Sang-Malima-Weso cross-border road on the Cameroonian side.
Let's come back home and talk about something else now. The 2020 edition of the Women's Day will hold with or without this year's fabric. The announcement was made today by the Minister of Women's Empowerment and the Family, Marie-Theresa Benaondwa, as she exhorted women in Cameroon to participate at the March 8 parade, dressed even in the fabric of the previous editions. Cynthia Etim is here with a summation of the minister's exhortations.
The Women's Day fabric gives color to the March 8 event in Cameroon. The scarcity of the fabric this year is a cause for concern. However, there is no call for alarm, as those who may not be able to obtain a piece of the 2020 Women's Day fabric have an alternative.
I would reassure all Cameroonian women that if for one reason or another they did not get the 2020 fabric, they can come and march past dressed with a fabric of a past edition still in good shape.
With the assurance made, no woman will be sanctioned for wearing the Women's Day fabric of the past editions.
It doesn't matter the year, it just has to be the fabric of the International Women's Day in Cameroon. No one has ever been expelled from the march past because he wore the fabric of a past edition. So they should not be afraid. It has happened in the past. This year in particular, they should not stay home because they did not get the fabric.
Women across the country are thus expected to massively take part in the Women's Day March Past on Sunday and are encouraged to guard against any excesses that may spoil the party.
And as reflections continue on the local textile industry with focus on promoting locally made clothes, we now plunge into a sector which might be the cause for the low consumption of locally fabricated textile products. Second-hand clothes from Europe and the Americas are cherished by a large part of the population. According to statistics, Cameroon lost some 126.4 billion CFA francs between 2015 and 2017 to the importation of second-hand fabrics, money which would have instead served to boost the local textile industry. So, should the second-hand clothes trade be banned to promote a clothing style proper to Cameroon? Beatrice Losamba attempts an answer.
Clothing proper to Cameroon. Tell me about that. Cameroon's traditional attires vary from one region to the other, defined by religion, tribal heritage, customs, as well as climatic conditions. The free flow robe of the arid north region and the head covering with some gender modifications. The fascinating mixtures and matches of the customary attires of the southern parts of Cameroon, the togo of the northwest, the dop of the western tribes, the obom of the center, south and east, and the rapa, which cuts across all these tribes, often used to cut out a lovely kaba pattern typical of the littoral and southwest regions. With such variety, the local textile industry should be booming. Unfortunately, not the case.
Some people who rely on SICAM for supply have often been disappointed.
A big part of the blame goes to a flourishing second-hand clothing sector. Over 100 billion CFA francs was invested in the sector within 2 years, statistics reveal. Cameroonians' crush for the second-hand clothes is facilitated by the fact that customary attires take a considerable time to make and are very costly.
Second-hand clothes are much cheaper than these, so impossible to avoid them.
The point is, if resources could be invested in stepping up local capacity, the local fabrics could be less costly. More so, there is every gain in doing so as our cultural identity gets promoted over a foreign dressing style, which rips us not only of our funds, but identity too.
Beatrice Losamba reporting there. Non-governmental organizations are made up in principle of groups of individuals whose objectives are geared towards assisting the distressed and needy fragments of the society. Granted, but in reality, some of them are being used as tools in the hands of rogues and scammers to source for finances and serve the interest of their funders. In continuation of our series on the business of non-governmental organizations, ONGOs, Cynthia Saptola tonight takes a look at the hidden faces, most of them, or the hidden face of most of these NGOs that pass around as people helpers.
It's from numerous examples that the double-faced nature of some NGOs have been revealed. Beyond acting as watchdogs of peace, democracy, and the protection of human rights, there are instances where their involvement has threatened the stability of a nation.
For instance, we saw the situation in Côte d'Ivoire during the post-electoral crisis. Remember, NGOs were behind the different news we saw as to maybe people being killed in different areas. But unfortunately, when Gbagbo was taken to the ICC could not prove or attest that he was responsible as to the crimes they posed. In Syria, you saw NGOs came in and said the Syrian regime was using chemical weapons against its own citizens. But now when the Russians insisted to go and investigate, all of this was being withdrawn. So most often NGOs do work on a two-sided form.
According to some political analysts, the objective of some is to draw pressure for a particular purpose. Experts add that it is important to always take into consideration the origin of some of these non-profits, their interest, as well as those who fund them.
It is the responsibility of citizens to know how they do receive information, most especially from some particular actors. If citizens don't see this information very well, we can see a situation whereby it can push to a kind of interference. And when this interference is being reached, then the sovereignty of a state is questioned and the security of the people is questioned.
Though not all non-profits are double-faced, it is prudent to remain cautious of the information some reveal.
The government of Russia has taken a strong stance, saying she is opposed to any humanitarian intervention in Cameroon. The country's ambassador to Cameroon was speaking in Yaoundé today after an audience with External Relations Minister. Ambassador Anatoly Bashkin also hailed the conduct of the twin elections that just held on February 9, 2020 in the country. Charles Abune is here with details.
Almost 9,438 kilometers of air travel distant Cameroon from Russia, one of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, with a permanent position on the situation in the northwest and southwest regions.
We are against humanitarian intervention, and once again,
on the heels of the major national dialogue held last year, the country of Vladimir Putin holds Cameroonian leaders have all it takes to solve their internal problems.
I underline that our position is that the president and the government of this country and the people of this country can resolve all the internal problems by themselves without international intervention, humanitarian.
As one of the fruits of the first ever Russia-Africa summit held in Sochi last year, Russia energy giants are well already fixed for the reconstruction of partially damaged national oil refinery Sonara, headquartered in Limbe.
2 weeks ago, it was a huge delegation of Lukoil oil company, Russian oil company. They are already working here in Caribbean with New Age British company on the extraction of natural gas. And so they promised to your Minister of Energy to send experts to study, to see the situation in Sonara.
And as the Russian diplomat left the Ministry of External Relations, he also welcomed the conduct of the last twin elections for a better Cameroon in the era of enhanced decentralization.
Let's now plunge you a while into the Cameroonian military in its endeavor to consolidate its image as a people-friendly army. And the bond between the nation and the army is amply exemplified through the military health services, with over 15 medical departments and more than 10 surgical units at the Yaoundé Military Hospital, which is just one among several others across the nation. The medical practitioners here say they reserve the best in terms of healthcare delivery to both the military and civilian populations, services they deliver 24/7. Yoti Kaleli Sanga reports on how this complicity plays out in these hospitals.
The Yaoundé Military Hospital doesn't just open its doors to the man in the uniform, but to everyone in need of medical attention.
We have 27 services here at the Yaoundé Military Hospital, and our prices are very affordable for all Cameroonians. It costs 2,000 francs to see a specialist and 1,000 francs to see general practitioner.
One of such departments is the Medical Imaging and Radiology Unit.
This is like a preparation room where the patient comes. If the patient has to do an examination which is contrast enhanced, we receive the patient here.
Like one would treat a best friend, these medical practitioners prepare their patients for a scan in a medical imaging machine.
We are the cheapest in the country, and we are the cheapest in the sub-region. We provide these services at a very low rate without reducing the quality. Price ranges from 125,000 to 175,000. Apart from in the military hospital, contrast-enhanced MRI is obtained at least 350,000.
Also always on call to both military and non-military personnel are those of the traumatology and orthopedic service.
As concerned civilians, we usually receive victims of road accidents. Their injuries may be external or internal. Whatever the fracture, we apply a suitable treatment. Our priority is to save lives.
Analyzing blood samples is not just a job to these lab technicians, but a mission geared towards restoring the patient's health. With a well-equipped theater, surgeries are performed to achieve the best results. While the military medical practitioners reassure civilians of their hospitable services, caregivers also turn to their Bibles for more hope and consolation.
The scientific year in Cameroon has opened in Yaoundé with researchers from the 8 institutions under the Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation being called upon to concentrate their research in areas like forestry, wood, textile and leather, mining, iron and steel and others so as to spur Cameroon's industrialization process. The 7th scientific convocation that opens today in the nation's capital under the auspices of Minister Marie-Madeleine Twente saw Professor Jacques-Paul Ekebile recognized as outstanding researcher for his works in promoting agricultural productivity. Emmanuela Bamue reports.
They solemnly walk into a new scientific year anchored on Cameroon's industrialization and are taking the resolve to focus their works on 5 sectors like forestry and wood, mining, iron ore and steel, hydrocarbons, refinery and petrochemicals as a way to meet this target.
Results of research usually are disseminated to the private sector, to the industries, and they are the ones that will use these results to be able to industrialize.
Research assistants, research officers, senior research officers and chief research officers from 8 institutions like IRAD, MEPRO-MALO and the National Institute of Cartography, amongst others, are on the starting line. Young science students of some 7 high schools in Yaoundé are equally present as one of this year's innovations. Close to 8,000 of the 1,000 researchers have been recruited. Minister Madeleine Twente says the best researcher recognition for the year is accorded to the retired doctor in agronomy.
Research on maize, sorghum and rice, cassava, yams and so forth, which plants which you well know contribute so much in the diet of Cameroonians.
Minister Madeleine Twente of Scientific Research and Innovation has called on the researchers to bar the way for charlatans, whom she said are giving scientific research a bad name.
Some good news for mobile telephone users in Cameroon. As from June this year, charges on roaming in the Semak sub-region will be suspended. This was one of the major recommendations arrived at during a meeting of telecommunication ministers of the Semak zone that held in Douala last week. Once these measures become effective, mobile telephone calls from one Semak member country to the other will become cheaper and a single flat rate for all the countries. Beatrice Ngum tells us how.
The roaming policy in the Semak region till date offered payable services in the different countries to users. But if the current project in the Semak sub-region to reform the tariff on roaming are applicable by June, commuters will begin using their phones for communication without any additional charges in Semak countries.
All transactions on electronic platforms have a task, be they calls, internet or WhatsApp. So the suppression of charges on roaming will bring about harmonization of tax on these services. Cost on calls in Cameroon will be the same like in other countries of the CEMAC.
They will no longer pay extra charges for calls, SMS, internet and other transactions, as tariffs will be harmonized in the 6 CEMAC countries with the creation of a single free roaming network. The sub-regional reform, once operational, experts say, will be of great benefit to consumers in the sub-region.
If this project is implemented, it will help businessmen traveling from one CEMAC country to the other, as they will use the same telephone number. There will be no additional charges, as is the case today.
Commuters will also communicate easily. The CEMAC market will be open to all, and the business climate in the sub-region will be improved upon. Likewise, regional integration reinforced.
The efficiency of digitization in the port systems of Africa is the focus of a conclave of the Association of Port Authority Management for West and Central Africa, who have converged on Douala here in Cameroon. The forum, that will also be an avenue for information exchange, has brought together participants from across the continent. Saline Dolo tells us more from Douala.
Digitalization remains a major challenge to seaports in Africa today. Representatives of the Ports Authority of Douala, headed by its Director General Cyrus Ngor, the ports of Kribi, Lomé, Gabon, Nigeria, Dakar, Gambia, Abidjan, San Pedro, Pointe-Noire, Sierra Leone and the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authorities, who constitute the Association of Ports Authority Management in Central Africa, are converging on Douala for the meeting of the Finance and Economic Studies and Administrative Legal Affairs Technical Committee in a bid to ensure the efficiency of digitalization.
It's better to work together and to be sure that the digitalization, which is the main problem of all ports now, you have on our sub-region adopted this digitalization.
During the meeting, some actual problems plaguing the milieu will be tabled.
Committees will raise some actual problematics as transshipment in the ports, as port single windows, and also human resources politics in the ports.
Participants are optimistic.
The most beneficial aspect of this PMAWCA is about information sharing, valuable information sharing from member ports.
The Director General of the Douala Ports Authority, Cyrus Ngor, enjoined all participants to make use of the forum so that the seaports will adapt to the modern exigencies.
Thanks for watching the 7:30 News on the Cameroon Radio Television, the CRTV. We are beaming live from Yaoundé. The promotion of human rights and the empowerment of lawyers in Cameroon was at the center of a General Assembly meeting in Yaoundé today. In attendance were members of the National Committee of the International Association of Lawyers, the UAI, Cameroon. We have details of that event with Maimoun Anjoya from CRTV Center.
The International Association of Lawyers, UIA, created in 1927, is a professional and multicultural platform which has been giving visibility to more than 2 million lawyers in over 120 countries in the world. The General Assembly meeting of the National Committee of UIA in Cameroon has served as another annual instance to discuss the daily constraints of lawyers and how to overcome them.
Is to bring young lawyers in our association so that they can achieve by having training, more knowledge. They can develop their network and they will be the better lawyers in the Cameroon Bar Association, and they can enjoy their professional practice.
At the end of this come together, lawyers of the Cameroon Bar Association will be expected to preserve some fundamental values of the profession, such as integrity, commitment, tactfulness, and discretion. But the ultimate goal of this meeting has been to bring together lawyers who will be able to fight for and maintain human rights.
The name of the new city mayor of Douala has just been made known after a long wait and consultation between the municipal councillors at the Douala Town Hall. Roger Mbassadine will be leading the council as its pioneer city mayor. Standing by live in Douala is our reporter Dixon Ashu with updates on that election. Hello, Dixon.
Yet to be officially pronounced, but the information is already everywhere. Roger Mbassadine is the pioneer mayor for Douala City. He's just been voted in there by municipal councillors of the Great Division. He was up against Jean-Jacques Kindi, MP Party, municipal councillor for Douala 1, and it was a contest that started up with 4 candidates for the CPDM party, but this evening has ended with 2, with others who withdrawn during the course of the election. So we shall be bringing you his profile in a short while, or maybe in a subsequent newscast. Dixon Ashu, CRTV News, Douala.
Thank you, Dixon Ashu, with the updates on that highly awaited election. And so the new city mayor of Douala is Roger Mbassadine. And as you heard from Dixon, we will be profiling him in our subsequent editions. The female staff of the Senate have extended a hand of friendship to inmates of the Center for Children in Distress situated in Yaoundé. They have been donated a consignment of foodstuff and cleaning materials to be used for the upkeep of the children and the day-to-day management of the center. Details with Christian Chiata.
The Center for Children in Distress functions under the tutelage of the Ministry of Social Affairs. It caters for abandoned and vulnerable children. It is supported by grants from the ministry and donations from persons of goodwill. This visit by the female staff of the Senate is their own way of reaching out to the children in need and of transmitting motherly love.
Most of them have nobody to take care of them. So that is why the Senate thought it wise to pay a visit to see how they are coping. This also marks part of our activities towards celebrating Women's Day.
To the close to 40 children in the center, the materials and foodstuffs are a reminder that though abandoned by their families, they are not alone.
I'm very happy with the gift, and it will help us to take care of our children. Then I hope that some other gift can come.
The Center for Children in Distress has been existing for close to 30 years and has already handled the cases of thousands of children in difficult situations.
The participation of women in peace building was at the center of a conference held at the Prime Minister's office as the female folks launched activities to commemorate this year's International Day of the Woman. The activities were launched under the auspices of the Special Advisor in the Prime Minister's office, Bertando, as we hear in this report with Star Building correspondent Sisako Tamko.
The current state of affairs marked by growing insecurity in some parts of the country seem to have inspired the female folks at the Prime Minister's office in the choice of a sub-theme to mark the 35th edition of the International Day of the Woman. Under the stewardship of Special Advisor Bertando, theirs was to raise awareness of the women's role as active agents in armed conflicts and key players to the success of any peace-building process, which most often has been neglected or unrecognized.
We all know that our country has been threatened with insecurity for the past number of years. Women are the ones who are affected. And so we thought that the women of the Prime Ministry should also come out and speak peace.
Conference panelists Barrister Sume Bertha Ayo and Epo Clement Satashi and Gender Focal Point at the PM's office retrace women's role in peace building as recognized in many international agreements to take special measures to protect women and girls from gender-based violence.
The message is not just for us participants, it's also for the powers that be to know that women should participate in the peace processes.
Through questions and answers, the women were opportune to get responses and understanding of the value and impact of women's leadership and gender equality in conflict prevention resolution.
A delegation of Serag women, headed by the General Coordinator Dr. Grace Dion-Gute, was out to celebrate the dynamism of the woman through a sports and fitness exercise at the Yaoundé PATYCHOU Vita Complex. They were accompanied by professional sports instructors and health workers. We have details with Enanga Kebi.
Considered as ambassadors of charitable and philanthropic works, the Yaoundé public today discovered the hidden talents of Serag women as veritable athletes and sportswomen. It all started with stretch-out exercises at the Bastos roundabout under the guidance of sports monitors. Next was the long walk on a hilly surface right up to the PATYCHOU Vita Sports Complex. At the PATYCHOU Vita, they all converged at the Lodge for Fitness and Body Movement. As humble and modest students, the women of Serag and their General Coordinator, Dr. Grace Dion-Gute, were all determined to burn calories and maintain their best posture by taking turns to work with the different sports equipment.
I want to thank our founding president, Her Excellency Madame Chantal Biya, who is always with the women, encouraging them and trying to make sure they are looking fit. She's been here for 2.5 hours. It's been intensive, but it was worth it.
The last phase was reserved for aerobics. This was at the open-air esplanade. At the end of the close to 2 hours workout, the Serag women were so overwhelmed, thereby celebrating March 8th ahead of the feast.
Similarly, women of the Cameroon Radio Television today organized a roundtable conference at the National Broadcasting House to share ideas and experiences on how CRTV women can blend their professional responsibilities with their domestic and social chores. The event was marked by a lecture on enterprise culture presented by Professor Mungumbenda Sabine Patricia of the University of Yaoundé II in the presence of the Director General of the CRTV, Charles Ndongo. We have details with Alice Mbe.
Activities geared towards the celebration International Women's Day at CRTV included exhibition of workshops of different services and a presentation on the importance of cultural enterprise to women.
Culture helps them to know what is the organization behavior, the main aims of the organization.
After the question and answer sessions, the ladies expressed satisfaction with knowledge acquired.
Most of us just want to expect. We don't want to give in. So the culture of enterprise is just to remind us that in expecting from our enterprise, there's a lot we have to give in terms of time, in terms of energy, in terms of all resources and the knowledge that we have.
The Director General of the CRTV, Charles Ndongo, visited the various stands and said he counts on the women for the forward march of the enterprise.
What I expect is a woman devoted for what she's doing. She should be devoted, seeking permanently for excellence.
The Director General appreciated the efforts of the women for their research on professionalism. He urged them to apply the knowledge acquired at their various services and to uphold their true positions in the society as women.
Let's talk sports now. The indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon will tomorrow take on the Polo Polo of Zambia in the first leg last round qualifier of the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. Ahead of the encounter slated for the Yaoundé Omispo Stadium, the coaches of both sides have been assuring the press that their teams are set for the cracker. Romeo Kenya was at the pre-match briefing.
Here are the Polo Polo of Zambia. 20 of them they are in Cameroon to tussle against the indomitable Lionesses and seek for a qualification ticket at this year's Tokyo Olympic Games. A few hours to kick off, Bruce Mwape and girls are confident they can make a difference in Yaoundé given the talents their selection is endowed with.
Cameroon, we can say it's a good team. They've actually participated in a lot of competitions as compared to Zambia. We cannot fear them. We have played them in Kosafa twice in the quarterfinals. We beat them. We are very much prepared to meet them.
On the other hand, Coach Alain Jamfa and his armada of players are counting on home support to overpower their opponents this Thursday.
We have worked together with the trainer of the goalkeeper BTM. Until now, we have to take the young goalkeeping to keep our goal. The person have to go to take the goalpost to be the best and to catch well.
We obviously want to limit what they are able to do and play to our fullest ability.
With serenity being expressed on either side, the confrontation is slated for the Yaoundé Onmi Sports Stadium at 3:30 p.m. The return leg match has been programmed for Lusaka, Zambia on March 10.
And in continuation of our countdown to the 2020 African Champions, we take you over to Douala, where the 50,000 capacity Japoma Stadium is one of the stadia that will host matches of the 2020 African Nations Football Championship, and as well as the 2021 African Cup of Nations that Cameroon will be staging. Completed a few months ago, the stadium is reportedly one of the best on the continent. Rene Kache now presents the Japoma Stadium, which stands out as a jewel in Central Africa.
This is the Japoma Stadium, situated at Japoma, on the outskirts of Douala and village of Cameroonian football great Albert Rojamila. Its imposing and aesthetic nature makes the 50,000-seater stadium one of the biggest and most attractive in Africa. Constructed by Turkish enterprise Yenigun, the stadium is embellished with modern technology and has been constructed with FIFA norms. Completed some 5 months ago, the Japoma Stadium prides itself as a major source of attraction. Its natural grass turf adds to the beauty of the structure. Its attractive green-red yellow sails implanted on the imposing stands wows even the neutral observer from afar. The presidential tribune has a modern lift. Nearby is a well-furnished security control room, as well as spacious commentary booths with optical fibers for accredited press organs. Within the stadium are found air-conditioned press centers, 4 changing rooms for players and referees, an ice pool, as well as a medical center. The stadium also has a modern kitchen and restaurant, all ready for use. Just in front of the stadium are 2 training fields, a gymnasium and a multipurpose sports complex. That's where we'll leave it for tonight. Let's do it all over again tomorrow. Thanks for watching and good night.